Hello there, and welcome back. Have you ever heard of the name Iceman? I bet American people know much better than the people living in other countries. But yes, Iceman is the name of the famous hitman for mafia organization. And today's topic is about this person, Iceman, the Richard Kuklinski. Hello, my name is Dr. Samurai, a international social pathologist. I would like to discuss with you some of the social problems with you deeply, much deeply than any other else, and would like to learn some lesson from each case so that you all over the world, my friends, can live your everyday life a little bit more happier. Okay? So that's enough. Let's enter into today's topic. By the way, do you know why this hitman is called Iceman? I was kind of thinking the same as you probably are thinking, because he was ice cold mentality, right? But actually, no. Uh, the name came from the fact that he killed one person and he froze him to hide exactly what time he killed the person. Because of this freezing the dead body for ME, he is called the Iceman. And especially I like to focus what is the difference between this mafia hitman who allegedly killed more than 100 people and all those serial killers and mass murder friends I talked about in my minute lectures. Those Iceman and other killers. What is the difference? Okay? We'd like to talk about it much deeper. Okay? Richard Kuklinski. The correct pronunciation is Kuklinski. His father is originally from Poland and the first generation. His mother was from the United States, like Irish blood. She was working for a meat packing factory, and his father was working as a brakeman. You know, like a pull or brake lever to stop a train. Most of you, I'm afraid, may know the first generation immigrants are supposed to be tougher on children. Maybe because they went through way heavy hardships or came to the United States with a much bigger dream of success, and that came upon their offsprings. There was this episode of what was going on in Mr. Kuklinski's family when he was a child. His father was a very abusive person to him, but also to his wife. And his mother, from a devout Catholic family, thought of his husband's way of a corporal punishment as being appropriate way of raising kids. Both of his parents approved using physical violence on kids. But his father, Stanley's violence, was not just a corporal punishment. It was random, very whimsical, just domestic violence. And one day at the morning breakfast table, Kuklinski was always trying to avoid eye contact to his father, but happened to hit each other's eye, right? And then what happened? His father beat him up. Just saying, the way you saw me, I didn't like it. Okay? It was like that. And even his mother, Anna, was a violent, approving person, like I said. And she also used violence. Husband used violence. It came down to mother, and it came down to their children. And she used broomstick, the stick part. Okay? It is said the stick got broken sometimes. In the one time, she even tried to kill Richard seriously with a kitchen knife. Later on, when Richard remembered what was going on long time ago, he called her as cancer, who broke everything she taught. Can you believe this? So there's very low possibility that kind and gentle kids come from the same under roof. Kuklinski had one older brother and one younger brother and one younger sister. So it was 4 siblings. Well, you know what happened to the first kid? Killed by his father, Stanley's abuse. They just reported to the police that the oldest brother died falling from the staircases. That's it. So it didn't become any legal case. And his younger brother, when he became 26 years old or something, he raped 13-year-old girl and dumped her with her dog, who was with her at the time, from the 5th floor. Because of that, I think that the youngest brother got a life sentence. But see, this is what happens. Some, scholars say, even when one of the siblings did the terrible things like mass murder and serial murders and stuff, other siblings are normal. That never happens. The fact that it happened to one person, there's no way the other children didn't see and didn't experience the same pressure under the same roof. So there's one family and the multiple family members. They chose to be at their own niche. Okay? So seeing his older brother was always scolded by doing something, other brothers learn not to do it, to avoid being under the same aggressive circumstances. But later on, when they hit adulthood, some kind of after effects started to come out. You understand what I'm talking about, right? So there's no way only one kid was abnormal and caused violent news case and stuff like that. I tell you what, there was very famous Akihabara case in Japan. Everybody in Japan knows. He just rushed into the intersection on Sunday when all the traffic was stopped and everybody was walking on the street on Sunday. He ran over so many, and after his truck hit something, he got out of the truck and holding this knife and started to killing, and even killed some of those who was trying to help being stabbed. Stuff like that. You know what happened to his brother later on? He committed suicide. Okay? It is always like that. And Mr. Kuklinski used to kill and abuse animals, which I personally hate so much. But anyway, I think it was the way for Richard to release unavoidable pressure coming down from his father Stanley. Otherwise, he cannot maintain normal mental balance. He became older, and around the age of 35 and 6 and stuff like that, he started to deal in X-rated videos. He happened to find this place where he found lots and lots of X-rated videos. He started to made copies of it, and started to do business by selling it. At the same time, he was leading a group who robbery groups. Some of the group members later on were killed by Mr. Kuklinski anyway, because of his too strong ego and greed that comes from his distorted childhood. Tiny, teeny things just snapped his anger, and he took both money and products and stuff. So doing business with certain types of people brings a lot of danger to you. You must be very careful if you were doing some dangerous business. Anyway, he kept doing those things, and he finally hit this case that gave him his name, Iceman. He killed one of the persons he did the business with, and froze the dead body, and it was found, discovered, and police attention came down to Mr. Kuklinski. Undercover cop went under for 18 months. Richard wanted some cyanide, so he kind of got information that this guy sold cyanide, who was, as you expected, undercover cop, right? He purchased white powders from this undercover cop, and he, right on the spot, put it in hamburgers and throw it to a stray dog nearby. And the stray dog ate it, but nothing happened. So Mr. Kuklinski, being a very highly paranoid and never trusted the people, started to suspect this person who sold that the fake cyanide powders. But anyway, without doing anything, he left, driving his car. 2 hours after, the road he was driving was blocked by the group of police officers, and he was arrested. First, he was arrested for 2 murders, and he got a 60-year sentence. Then, later on, 2 more murders came up, and for that, he got double life sentences added to the original 60-year-old sentence. So, 60-year sentence plus 2 life sentence consecutively. That was his punishment he got. And I think after his sentence was decided, excuse me, probably he felt mentally secure because he knew what was going to happen in his life. He started to talk about all the other murder cases he committed, knowing that his sentence is not going to change anymore. And that's the time he started to talk about he killed so many people for mafia families. Finally, he came down to work with one family called the Gambino family. And he worked for a gentleman called Mr. Roy DeMeo. If you know this name, you must be a mania. Roy DeMeo was known to be a psychopath killer, even among Gambino families. And he was using this lounge called Gemini Lounge as his office, right? But it was known among the family as the place of getting rid of so many dead bodies by Roy DeMeo faction. Okay? And Mr. Kuklinski allegedly worked for this Roy DeMeo. There's this small episode that Mr. Roy and Richard were in the same car, right? And Roy noticed Richard's very cold and unemotional manner of behavior. So something clicked, and he probably thought maybe he could use this guy as his hitman. So he gave him his gun and told Richard to go out and shoot that homeless guy. So he opened up the door and he just do it without showing any emotion and came back. And that was supposed to be some kind of test by Roy to Mr. Kuklinski to be his special hitman. It is said that Richard used multiple ways of killing his target. He used a crossbow. He used a remote control car with a bomb. He used a grenade, and he used a rope. He was 6'10", so he actually hanged one person at a restaurant. But among all those killing methods, what do you think he loved most? I already said it. Yes, it was using cyanide. The first case he used cyanide was like this. He was told to kill this very big gay person. So he put cyanide powder into liquid and put it into a nasal spray. You know, some of you use it, right? When your nose got congested. This gay person was at a discotheque. He was dancing in the middle of the dance floor. Roy allegedly didn't like a place like that. He, I think, liked just being at home with his family when he didn't do his business. But anyway, he was carrying this nasal spray with the cyanide liquid in and pretend like he was dancing and getting closer and closer to his target. Once he got to him, he sneezed, pretended like he sneezed, and he sprayed the liquid inside the spray. Seconds after, this gay person fell down and everybody gathered and what happened, are you okay, and stuff like that. And by the time he was already out of the discotheque. You know, and the reason why he said he liked using cyanide was unless you are specifically looking for cyanide, it was very difficult to find cyanide being used. Most of them are diagnosed as a heart attack. That's why he liked it. It was easy and not considered murder. One other case, he was at the cafeteria or something, having a coffee. And when his target stood up, maybe to go to a restroom or something, he stood up too. And he pretended like he was he was stumbled over something. He just, put a bit of the water from the water glass he was carrying. But inside, the cyanide was dissolved. Got on his jacket, right? But it gradually goes through the jacket down to the shirt and to the skin into his body, target's body, right? And the target dropped. Again, diagnosed as heart attack. So this cyanide was his most favorite way of MO, modus operandi, the way to kill. Like I said, he boasts of more than 100 killings. Out of those many cases, he remembered some, especially one case came to his mind was this guy, when he pointed his gun at the guy, he started to pray, please God, something, save my soul, something. And because maybe he was forced to be a member of a choir club at the Catholic Church, he said to him, okay, I will wait for 30 minutes. During those 30 minutes, God really came down and do something, I will save you. And he just sat holding his gun and doing nothing and waiting literally 30 minutes. But nothing happened. What he did, he goes, You were wrong. Nothing happened. And boom, boom. And the target died. The other case he remembered was he was riding a motorcycle, this big guy, but riding a motorcycle, and he stopped at the red light at the intersection, and there's other car stopped with open window. I'm not sure whether this guy was his original target or not. He had this expensive looking cigar in his mouth. So probably this guy was Mr. Richard's target. He talked to this guy, "Is that a Cuban?" And the driver goes, "Fuck you, man. That's none of your business." Right? So he pulled out a gun out of his jacket and shoot the guy. So the guy never saw green light. The other case also happened there. I think it was in a car too. He was this target together in the same car. And at the time he was carrying sawed-off rifle. Shotgun, right? Sawed-off shotgun. And he shooted it, right? What he actually said was he was surprised the way this target's head disappeared like a pumpkin exploded. That's the way he explained. This sort of shotgun goes like bang, right? And this pumpkin like exploded. And there's no head anymore of this target. And those are the kind of murder cases he especially remember. And what do you have to do once you kill someone? I mean, that is not going to happen in your life, I hope. But you have to get rid of the body, right? Richard said he used many methods, like using a chainsaw to dismember the bodies, and sometimes used sulfuric acid in a bathtub to dissolve the dead body. But his, again, most favorite way of getting rid of dead body was, what do you think? There's this secret cave which no one knew. And he brought the dead bodies to his favorite cave and left it right there as it is. And next time he goes there, nothing was there. Why? Because in time, so many rats came to the body, eat everything, including flesh and bones and even skulls, which most of the murderer had most difficulty getting rid of. Those rats with strong teeth bites everything if they have enough time. So he used a cave as his favorite place to get rid of dead bodies. I told you so many shocking stories about Mr. Richard Kuklinski. But like I said in the beginning of this video, we would like to look at what the difference is between Mr. Kuklinski, like a business hitman, and all the other murderers, like serial killers and mass murderers. Is there any difference? I usually use two measures when I evaluate the person as a murderer. One is a psychopathy, and the other is from the perspective of types of serial killers, right? Let's start with the psychopathy. There's this famous scholar, researcher called Robert Hare. Mr. Hare categorized psychopath into three groups. One is primary psychopaths. Real psychopath, that is considered as emotional handicap, especially conscientious and guilt, right? They don't feel anything to hurt others. Emotional handicap, very shallow emotion. And type 2 is called secondary psychopath, which is called sociopath. That is very familiar name to you, right? Sociopath. Sociopath is not a real psychopath. They have their normal emotions developed. It's not like primary psychopaths who don't feel things. They feel, but they act exactly like primary psychopath because they were raised under very difficult childhood environment to act the way psychopath dads is and was the best way to survive. But they do things, they do aggressive things, and after that they feel this pain and regret. So only acts like psychopath, but actually feels pain. That's the secondary psychopath. I mean sociopath, due to environment. And most of you do not know that third type of psychopath called the social psychopath. This is the one you see very often in the movies and TV, violent movies and, violent TV dramas and stuff. Let me put it this way. Like you are born into mafia family and getting older, you become a member, right? If your father was a mafia member, middleman, right? In that society, violence happens all the time. That's daily matters. And they think using the violence is something normal. So they don't feel anything because of that specific violent culture. That is called the social psychopath, coming from the world and culture the person is living. So primary psychopath, secondary psychopath, that is sociopath, and the social Psychopath. Which category does this Mr. Richard Kuklinski belong to? He reported several things. I will report it one by one, okay? Very quickly. Can I turn on the light? Maybe not. Okay. And one, he was bullied all the time. That happens when you were raised in an abusive family, because such child are afraid of people. So easily get a target by bullies. So he was bullied all the time. And it was when he was at the age of 13, he decided he had enough. And he went back to his room and brought back this iron pole, which is used to hang clothing, right? And he beat the major guy bullies, right? I think he actually killed the guy. But it is allegedly said that he removed the guy's teeth and fingerprints and threw them away. So police could not identify the dead body accordingly. So he was not arrested. At the time, he said he was scared and he felt sorry. But gradually, he felt another feeling coming out, sense of security. This way, he is no longer bullied. So, first, scared of what he did, but gradually felt secure. That's first thing. Second thing, he kept saying, if he didn't have to kill, he didn't want to kill. If there was a choice, I choose not to kill. So obviously, he did not enjoy murder acts itself. That's number two. Number three, he kept saying, when he was asked, how did you feel when you killed people? He goes, oh, nothing. I didn't feel anything at all. But he was pushed further. He confessed that he tried not to think about it, because thinking about it only hurts himself. So it was hurting him. Killing other people and thinking about it was hurting. That is a sign of him having emotions developed, right? And number four, he truly loved his family members, his wife, his two daughters, and he even cried in front of the TV camera one time. That is another sign of him having normal emotions and love and attachment developed inside. He had normal emotions developed in him. And number five, he said, why do you think he could do all those things? And he answered one word: hate. I didn't love nobody. I didn't have any love. I didn't understand. I don't understand what the love is. So the hate was the only thing that drove me to live on. Hate was the only thing that kept him going on and on and on. So, based on these 5 information, based on this, which type of psychopath he belongs to, do you think? Of course, he had shallower emotions than most of ordinary people, right? You could never carry out so many murders, even if you were forced to. So he was a bit of a, primary psychopath trait, of course. Also, there were multiple occasions that he went into road rage and followed the guy who crossed him on the road. This uncontrollable rage that leads to secondly psychopath, because he also had this pain and attachment to his family, but uncontrollable rage. But the major thing he is considered to belong to. In short, I believe there's a high possibility that he belonged to the social psychopath. Of course, I did not see him in person, so this is not the official medical diagnosis, but there's a high possibility that he was the social psychopath. What about from the perspective of serial killer? It is usually considered there are 4 types of serial killers. One type is called visionary serial killers. They suffer psychotic breaks from society, like mental disease, paranoid schizophrenia, could be due to taking hallucinatory drugs and stuff like that. Like Mr. Herbert Mullin, that I know very well. He did 13 killings because he took hallucinatory drugs, and he was also under oppressive family environment. They hear voices that they have to do certain things. In his case, he heard voices that he had to kill as sacrifices to stop further big earthquakes and stuff. That's a visionary. It's like a mental disease. And the second type is called the mission-oriented serial killers, which is something like Charles Bronson's movie Death Wish. Like they have to get rid of certain types of people from the society to clean. Like some people keeps killing prostitutes because they want to stop disease from spreading all over through prostitutes and stuff like that. Anyway, they believe so. This is called mission-oriented. The other type, third type, is hedonistic serial killers. This is the type who enjoys hurting the victim, like Richard Ramirez, that I know very well. I communicated with him for several years. He loved his victim wiggling when he cut their bodies with his knife and stuff. He loved victim agonizing with pain. That's hedonistic. And last type is called power and control. It's like they want to control the other person's life completely like a god. Like Mr. Donald Harvey, who killed, I think, 83. I actually saw him, at the prison, and I was in communication with him for several years too. And I knew him very well because he often sent me, birthday cards and emails, on my birthday. But anyway, he loved controlling the patient's life or death. Like he became a god. There are those visually mission hedonistic that has much to do with the sexual desires and power and control. Controlling the other person's life or death. From this perspective, in his acts of killing so many for so many years, it is serial murders, clearly. He didn't have any paranoid schizophrenia, so that put him out of visionary. He didn't enjoy killing. He would rather not to kill, so he is not hedonistic. He was not especially interested in controlling that person's life. He did it all for money to feed his family. So if I have to put him into one category, he was close to mission-oriented. So that's my analysis based on his behavioral patterns. But this is not official. I believe there's a high possibility that he belongs to the social psychopath. He did it due to his business environment in which killing was not unusual act, the social, and also mission-oriented. Although it was not the mission itself, it was for business, but he did it for his living to feed his family without enjoying a bit of killing. So, the social and mission-oriented has the highest possibility of having him in. And it is a bit off of the storyline. Most of the serial killers are not the psychopath. You should remember that. You know why? There's so many people, including scholars, that believe serial killers are psychopaths. Now, like I said, the psychopath is an emotional handicap. So, they do not enjoy seeing them the victim agonizing in pain because they don't understand that so well. Okay? They rather enjoy hurting it. So most of them are sadist rather than psychopath. Of course, their psychopathy is higher, way higher than ordinary people, but if that serial killer enjoys killing their victims, that is the sign of him being a sadist. So most of the case, high psychopathy plus very high sadism. That is the root cause of serial killers. I would like you to know, because there are so many wrong understandings going around. But going back to Mr. Kuklinski's case, although it was business, some business client asks for a special request, like wanted to see the victim to suffer and stuff like that. So he occasionally did a very ugly things like cutting off the tongue of the victim and put it into his rectum and stuff like that, requested by his client. But he did not do it because he enjoyed it. It was all his business. And I think by now you pretty much have good understanding of what kind of person Mr. Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, is. But I would like to emphasize that he had two faces clearly separated. He had two different lives, double lives. One is a kind father at home. He never talked about his business. And long time ago, he made it a rule for his wife and children not to ask about his business, even when he had to go out very late at night suddenly by the phone call and stuff. He made it a rule. So the family did not know what kind of business he was into, though they kind of sensed it was not ordinary business. But once he is out of his house, away from his house, he did all that and could handle it very well as a professional. But this kind of a professional assassin, when some reporters said the term assassin, he denied it. He just said, I was just a murderer. It is very interesting. But he, in the end, died in prison because of Kawasaki disease, allegedly. But since it was right before he'd standing as a witness against the Gambino crime family, it is rumored that there's a high possibility that he was assassinated by the Gambino family. But the truth, nobody knew outside of who actually did and ordered. And lastly, some police officers says it's a lie that Mr. Kuklinski killed over 100 victims. My professional sense tells me he was not a liar. Seeing the way he sees and his facial expressions and 0 to 100 sudden change of emotional change up to anger, that all tells it was not a lie. And I've seen so many so-called criminals as my friends, right? They were all big shots, each of whom has movies and so many books written about them and stuff like that. And once they appears, the air around that person changes. You know, my friend who has experience of incarceration said when a really violent prison gang comes into the cell, the air suddenly became chill. That applies to Mr. Richard Kuklinski too. So I think I would rather believe his killing of more than 100 was not a lie. This is it. And the lesson we can learn from this Mr. Kuklinski's story is that because of his unusual, very difficult upbringing by his highly abusive father, he could only live based on his hate instead of love. But as I always say at the classes for prisoners that I work for, my true voice is, I know most of you people are coming from a happy, loving family, but those who chose the different path come from totally different family. You have to understand this. Not everybody comes from loving family. So no one rule applies to everybody. That said, invading into others' territory and killing and hurting others is not approved no matter what. So even if you are coming from not necessarily happy family, remember this: don't cross the line into others' territory, because that always comes back to you. It's action and reaction. You can still live with the minimum happiness even if you come from disadvantageous family. Freely outside in society, and you can find tiny happiness. It could be keeping a pet, with dogs, cats, feeling the change of seasons and stuff like that. As long as you do not cross the line of invading others, you can protect and you can have tiny happiness of your own. So please think about this, because I'm not telling you this superficially. I'm telling you this from the bottom of my heart. Okay? Thank you very, very much for listening.